This is Mike Kiley, and you're listening to Airey Bros Radio.
All right, y'all. We are back. Hope you all had a wonderful holiday with the family. Enjoyed your Thanksgiving. We're going belly to belly again tonight. Last week we had a little bit of belly to belly with a little bit of cross country. And then we're kicking off the week, going belly to belly. Back in Ocean County, back in our roots. We are joined tonight by Brook Memorial head wrestling coach Mike Kiley. But before we get too far into that, make sure you are subscribed on YouTube. Give this episode a like. Go over and check out all the socials for Brook Memorial. Give the Mustangs a follow. Make sure you're following us on wherever you subscribe to your podcast. We would love that. And also a big shout out to Black Sheep Endurance for their continued support. Make sure you go over there and check them out if you have any ultramarathon needs, personal training, anything like that, nutrition. Head on over there. We'll get you set up. And we are stoked to be with Mike Kiley tonight. He is currently entering his 9th season as the head coach of Brook Memorial. He's led the program to 3 sectional titles and 4 district team championships. He recently celebrated his 100th career coaching victory, a huge milestone in the Shore Conference. He's coached 6 individual state champions and guided 12 athletes to region championships, as well as 26 to district championships, solidifying the Mustangs as one of New Jersey's top wrestling programs year in and year out. Coach Kiley, it is an honor and a pleasure to have you with us tonight. Thank you for joining us on Airey Bros Radio. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you for that introduction.
Coach, before we get too far into it, if you got any of the socials for the program, you want to give anyone a shout out, and want people to find you, the floor is yours.
On social at Brook Memorial, for sure. We're big out on social. So on Instagram, I'm at Coach Kiley BM. And the team's profile is at B_Memorial Wrestling. And then the Twitter handle is at BMHS Wrestling. We post a lot. We're out there pretty active on it.
Awesome. We love following us, seeing the stuff, keeping track of the boys back home. Coach, first question we have for you, and probably the most important one. I think we know the answer, being from Ocean County, but is it pork roll or Taylor ham?
Pork roll. Not even a question, Coach. Not even a question, man.
All right, that's what we thought. We had that North Jersey guy from Delbarton up here last week, and he's saying otherwise. You know, there's the Taylor ham country up there, but as of right now, I'm pretty sure that pork roll is the dominant answer with all of our guests that come on here. We've even had some Pennsylvania guests that have called the pork roll.
Good for them. They know the deal.
Nice.
You had to assume that with Stoll coming on.
Yeah, and any of those guys above that bridge are usually I don't think we've had anyone above the bridge that said pork roll. It's just been awesome to kind of watch you take over the program, see what you've done with the program, legendary program in Brook Memorial. What does that mean for you to take over that program? Obviously, your brother did pretty well there. You did pretty well there. A lot of legacy at Brook Memorial. What's that like for you?
You know what? It's pretty cool because right out of college, I took over David Brierley, and my teammate Mike Denver took over Brook Memorial a year before that, or 2 years before that. So I figured Denver was here to stay, and I knew I always wanted to be the head wrestling coach at Brook Memorial. So I took Brierley, and without really ever even thinking about the BM job opening up, and when that opened up, I slid right in, and Jim, it feels like this is just where I'm supposed to be. It's home to me. When I think of wrestling, I think of that wrestling room. When I think of the sport, I think of Brook Memorial and everybody that's been in that room prior to me. So it's a real honor. It's a heavy thing to hold, though, because there's an expectation there. You know, there's an expectation for this program to perform a certain level, and I take that as very prideful in that.
So you mentioned that heavy load. Do you ever look in the mirror and kind of see that 9th grade self, that kid that went to vets, but I'm the coach, I'm the head coach? How did this happen?
Yes. Sometimes I scratch my head when I'm, giving a speech, and I can put myself back where I'm sitting when O'Connor was giving the speech. So it is, it's a pretty trippy thing, to be honest. Sometimes, it really is, because it's just, doesn't feel like too long ago I was sitting in their shoes, and now I have a completely different role.
Talking about the storied program, one of the things that was I always thought was like the coolest thing ever was no matter what, every match you could bet on that Brooke Memorial was going to come out to Sympathy for the Devil. Is that still a tradition?
That is our song. You could still place that bet, Rich.
And is there a story behind that? I've always wondered if there's a story from back in the day as to why that came about and then how it stuck.
So Denny DeAndrea came over from an album, and that was his song there. He brought it with him, and yeah, just has been the song since. Even at Vets, we ran out to it, so it's just tradition there. Even when we're hitting a hard 6 minutes at the end, we'll put it on because it's a 6 minute song. You can go a whole match for it, stance match. It's yeah, that's our song.
Has there ever been any pushback? Like, can we get something new?
The kids, the kids seem to really love it. They really, you would think, hey, can we run out to this new song? No, they can't wait to hear the banjos going and slap that refuse to lose sign and get out there.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Even during practice when I put it on, they get all jacked up. They love the song. Tradition, like you guys have been talking about.
Yeah. Well, I guess that makes sense because I think one year Alpin might have wrestled someone in the Shore Conference and they came out to it. So now that all makes sense. That ties it all back because Denny used to be at Manalapan. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
A little bit of history over here. I love it.
There you go.
So you mentioned Coach DeAndrea, and when we had Coach Nucci on, like Rich said, he kind of gave us the breakdown. And I kind of had that light bulb moment that when we were growing up, when Rich was growing up, when I was growing up, and Coach Calvarelli was the head coach. You had Denny, and then you had DeMarco. And I had this light bulb moment like, oh, he had two assistants that were powerhouse coaches come and help him. Do you educate the kids on the history of the program?
Oh yeah, and you know what? Pretty cool. Ocone did this, is responsible for this. He took all the banners of the state championship teams and put them in our room. So you see all the coaching staffs and the lineups from 1986 and number one team in New Jersey. So we talk about that every day, almost the tradition and the history of the program because it's right on our walls. It's embedded in our program.
Okay. So talking about that history, and we all know the history of Brook Memorial Wrestling. What's your history? How'd you get into wrestling? How did it stick with you?
So really, I played every sport. I came from a family. My grandfather was a coach. He was an athletic director. He coached, I want to say like 30 seasons in a row, 30 years. Track and field, wrestling, football, baseball. He did it all. So we were just a sports family growing up, and wrestling wasn't pushed on me. It wasn't until Tony Nash actually grabbed my brother. He was on a baseball team and kind of like started pushing wrestling on him. And then I think he was in seventh grade or sixth grade. He started, and then I started in like second. I was younger than him. So yeah, it wasn't really like we grew up wrestling, but we just took a love to it as a family. We've made it very important to us. So that's really how I got into wrestling. It wasn't pushed on me. I played football, I played baseball, but I just took more of a liking to wrestling. And I will say Ocone coming in high school really had a big influence on me and made me fall in love with the sport.
Shout out to Coach Nash. I don't think he gets enough credit. Brick Mat Rats. He was always coaching. I wrestled for Point Beach Rec, and he was always there on the come up. And then I believe he might have coached at Brick with Jason Nace when I was in high school. He's someone that doesn't get enough dabs, but he's definitely the man.
Oh yeah, he's still coaching the youth in Brick, so he's still involved, and we're lucky to have Coach Nash for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think he even might have been the one responsible for Evan Birdie getting into the Ironman that one year.
Wouldn't be surprised, right? Tony's done a bunch of them.
Yeah, I think that was Evan's story with that.
Evan just did a serious race recently, right?
He just finished Javelina 100 back in right around Halloween.
Halloween, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
good for him. He's
Yeah.
awesome. Oh, that
And he did that 250 last year, the year before, out in Arizona. That's That's intense.
Have you done any of those, Rich?
I haven't done a 250 yet, but that one that he did is one of three that's kind of on my radar of something I might want to do as like my send off, my last hurrah, the last one, and then just kind of ride, leave my shoes at the finish line and cue the
Gulag
Western
Gardner.
music.
You call it a wrap it
Yeah,
up.
that's
There you
it.
go.
I'll be on the beach from now on.
That's
Mike,
great.
you mentioned Coach O'Cone, and we've had him on the podcast. He's someone that Rich and I hold in high regard. I'm interested to know what it was like to wrestle for him. You have any epic Coach O'Cone stories? I always see pictures of you guys at Muller's on Friday every once in a while and at the beach, so I'm sure he's got a big spot in your life.
Oh man, Coach, I was texting him today. You know, Coach O'Cone is he's a family. I mean, he's turned into family to me. He comes to my kids' birthday parties. It's an amazing relationship that I have the I've been fortunate enough to forge in this sport. He he's such a loyal man. I learned so much from him in the aspect of, you know, when he was coaching, he was such a great leader of men. And it's not easy to be a leader. He was a great button pusher. He knew he didn't push the same button with everybody. You know, like he would joke in a way with some kids, or he would be firm with me because that's kind of the kid I was. Constant reminders. But the way that he got the most out of our teams, it was just so impressive. As now as a coach to look back and think about the runs we went on and the peak that we hit when we needed to as a group, and that was really a credit to Coach. He was a drill sergeant, but also knew how to be your friend too, and it was a really cool dynamic of as I reflect back on Coach O'Connell. He knew how to push buttons. He knew how to be a drill sergeant, but he knew how to create a rapport with you that made you just want to run through a wall for him.
Yeah, talking to him, he had a very interesting perspective on how to run, how he ran practice, and how he, would encourage people to use their favorite moves or drill their favorite moves as opposed to like this cookie cutter system is like, oh, we're a high crotch and an ankle pick team, and that's what we're going to drill. We're going to drill. And, sometimes that just doesn't work for a kid like Jimmy, who's a scrambler, spaghetti wrestler, and doesn't do offensive shots. No disrespect. But it was cool to hear him talk about that sort of stuff and how he fostered that kind of artistic approach to wrestling and not just we got to work harder, we got to get better, but let's practice the things that we're good at and let's get better at those things and have fun with it, because that was the thing. We talk about this all the time with coaches. When I was in school, I was like an anomaly of someone who actually liked wrestling. I was on a team with a bunch of people that hated wrestling. I was like, why are you doing this if you hate it?
Yeah.
But a lot of that had to do with, cutting weight and that sort of stuff. But it seems like Dan and a lot of those guys that era, his class of 92 and 90, those coaches that came up, they had a different perspective than the coaches we had. And they really started to foster kids to love the sport and enjoy it.
Yeah, and that's where you grow the most when you're at peace and you're just in there to have fun and you're not fighting the scale. Now fun is a fine line in this sport too, right? You were saying, Rich, you actually enjoy this wrestling's a grind.
Hmm.
So you to find fun in that is a tough thing, but that's where you have to get to be that elite wrestler. Find fun in the drill, find fun in the scramble position, find fun in putting yourself in uncomfortable situations. And if you can find that fun, you're a little wacky, and it takes a special breed. So I know we like to throw the word fun around, but that fun's a little different,
Sure. Okay.
right? So I have so much respect that I was just thinking about the kids in my room, and we were just talking about this today. We we want you to start with our base and then branch your own trees out, right? You got to have a solid wrestling core, and that's your roots and that's your base. And then you have a lot of leaves and a lot of branches that are coming out. So we got to throw your own individual leaves and branches in there. But the base of the hand fighting, the stance, and things like that, that never wavers. So right now we're planting our roots, and the branches are going to come soon as far as our individual season. Just thinking about our room. But Ocone did a great job of that. And when I think of that, I wasn't even in the room for it, but I know he did that with those Ruggiero twins. They were straight judo, chin whips, and he forced that into their drilling and their wrestling, and it became a style for them, which was really a great job to, credit to Coach O.
Talking about it's a certain kind of fun. It's a fine line kind of fun. Can you teach that to kids?
Yeah, they have to want it.
Yeah.
There's a certain line in the sand that they have to be willing to cross of being uncomfortable. And I will say this today, we had 65 kids sign up for
Mhm.
wrestling, and it's a lot. That's the most I've ever had. And I was trying to dwindle it. I got it down to about 56 because there's not a lot of room, and I need a safe environment for these kids to wrestle hard and drill hard. And I'm just mind blown by the way these kids are focused, working hard, and finding that fun in what we're putting them through. I'm actually very impressed at this group of kids, and even the kids that are brand new to wrestling. They're being pushed past their comfort zone, and they continue to show up. So I think I have a pretty big group of kids that are finding that fine line and fun.
We talked to Coach Stoll too. He said he had a handful, half a dozen kids that had never wrestled before, maybe more than that. At that this in 2024, it blows my mind that kids are coming out at the high school level for the first time wrestling. What's encouraging or what's drawing kids to try wrestling for the first time at ninth graders still?
So I think at certain programs, maybe the winning aspect.
Hmm.
When any program that's winning, people tend to have higher numbers. So I think winning one, but the thing is with our sport is if you want to be on a winning team, you're in there working too. And I'm not putting down any other sport, but there's some sports where you can hang on and be on a championship team, and get the sweatshirt. So credit to our kids that if you are joining this, you're being put to the test. What else? Maybe the pop up in this area of jujitsu clubs. Maybe their father's starting to do jujitsu, and now they're pushing that grappling on them and being involved. Hey, you could do this for free. Your program's pretty good. And also I think that's another aspect. There's a lot of fathers that are starting to do jujitsu in a later age, and basically pushing that on their kids. Like, I wish I wrestled in high school. How often do you hear that? So I think that's trickling down. Um, and also, I think that the UFC, right? I think kids are seeing that. They know the wrestling is a big aspect of it as well. So also another kid, sorry, my son started crying. I was listening, but I had a kid come up to me and tell me that he was really addicted to weed, right? And he was struggling with that, and he is using wrestling to help him. So there's so many different reasons why. And now he's losing weight, and his body image is better. So, and it's pretty wild to think in my room, I have a kid that's doing that, just tying shoes on for the first time. And then I have Harvey Ludington, who's ranked number one in the country, just got back from a tour of NC State, UNC. So it's pretty amazing to see the variance of the caliber or why someone's wrestling in the room. And they're
Yeah.
in the same practice.
Mike, we are on the same wavelength because I was going to ask you about Harvey and having 56 kids and having some new kids, and then you have the number one state or number one wrestler in the state by NewJerseyWrestling.com. How do you kind of manage that? And also, when I was in high school and even at Middlesex, I didn't have time for first year wrestlers when I was wrestling. I was trying to win a state title. I was trying to win a national title. I didn't want you on my team. I'm going to be blunt about it. But as a 37-year-old man, I know the lessons and I know the things everyone can get from the sport of wrestling. And I'm sure you do too. You do as well. And mentioning that kid that he's quitting weed and he's getting in better shape, and there's something good to that. So how do you kind of balance that of having one of the best wrestlers in the nation and having kids that are maybe not going to help the team, but they're going to build character and it's going to help them going down the line?
Exactly. So reflecting on how many kids I had, I was thinking about making cuts, and so I pushed them really hard that day, and I said in the beginning of practice I might make cuts. And I got home and I thought about how much I would be taking away from these kids. If there was lack of effort, I would have, but there was no lack of effort. And like you were saying, Jim, like there's so many lessons and values in this sport. In today's world, young men need them. So right there, I couldn't take the sport away from these young kids. Now, how do you deal with a kid that's number one in the country, and like a kid that is coming out for the first time? It's not easy because you have to make sure he's getting his work, and you also have to bring them up to speed. But the beauty, and that's where I was talking about the core, the base of the tree, the roots, those things really never change. So when I am bringing them up to speed, when I am doing whistle starts today, and like going very elementary to make sure everybody's on the same page with just the basics. If you can't do the basics, you're not really that elite, right? So focus on those basics, get great at them, add in your little, adapt it for if we're doing 2 knee slides, do a changeover to 3 knee slides, right? So modify it for yourself because you're advanced, but you can always get great at the little things. So, and then once everyone's caught up, we're branching out. We're branching out, and hey, maybe a coach is over there working on something with Harvey in a different way than the rest of the group is drilling. That usually was my brother. He was such an asset. I mean, Harvey and him drilled and wrestled hard every day for the past 3 years, basically. So it was a beautiful thing and I have to say, we have a 215 pounder who is a hammer, and a heavyweight he'll be ranked top 5. So that's a nice drilling partner for Harvey as well. So as far as the drilling in the room, it was covered by Dave. He was able to push him. And then now with Dave being out in Arizona, he has an actual kid that can wrestle with him, which is a beautiful thing because that's very, very hard to find.
So 2 questions off that. Sorry, Rich, I'm hogging all the questions tonight. Good. But you mentioned your brother Dave, and we know how much of an impact he had on the program. So what was that conversation like when he came to you and he was talking about, hey, I got this opportunity out in Arizona? And also, how are you filling that gap? Is it possible to fill that gap?
So, no, you can't replace Dave. Not just because he's my brother. You can't. So to answer that question, no, you really can't. We did fill it, and I'll get to that. But so he mentioned it to me one day. He's like, "Hey, Frank Bonner and Zeke, they want me to put in for this NIL job out there." That's what it was in the beginning. I thought it was just strictly NIL, but then he's now a director of State 48 Wrestling, and the title changed, but he's still doing that type of work. So he just mentioned it to me. He's like, "I doubt anything happened, but I do have an interview." So then like weeks go by, and he doesn't talk about it, and he's basically running open mats, and he's still so bought in. He's doing privates with all of our kids like crazy. And then like he brings it up again. Hey, I do have an interview for that Arizona job. So just keep that in the back of your head. I don't know what's going to happen. And then another month, like it was very choppy. Another month goes by over the summer, and he's like, I don't think anything's going to happen with this. I'm full tilt, Rick PM. And then with like 2 weeks, he went on 3 interviews, flying out to Arizona, and then boom, he's the director. I was like, whoa, this just came on fast. And school was about to start when all this was happening. So it was like, I kind of knew, because Dave, when he does something, he does it great. That's just who he is. He was so bought into, once he knew the interview process was starting to happen, it became, hey, I'm not going to answer you today. I'm prepping for this, So I knew once he got in that room, he was probably going to, and then it was down to 12 people. Then it was down to 6 people. And then he was down to the final 2. I said, all right, I know where this is going. So I actually started when he was in that final interview already looking for people. How I filled that gap, I have a whole new coaching staff. I don't have anybody. From last year, the only person is Coach Caleb Alvarado. So right now my staff is myself, Justin Zuba, David Zuba's older brother. He's a teacher in the building. What a great asset. Donnie Miller, back from my teams. He's such a great asset. He's a cop. So he's
shout out to Donnie Miller. He was another workout partner, sure thing.
Double Donnie, man. His doubles were nasty. He's great. Yes. Love Donnie. So he's bringing a great energy into the room. Great to have alumni back. His name's up on the wall. So it's awesome to have him. And then Josh Huber was over at Tom's River North. He's a little spark plug of energy. He's going to add so much value. And then the big one, my dad. I replaced my brother with my dad. We upgraded really from junior to senior.
Nice.
So my dad's not a wrestler, right? He's not a wrestling guy, but he's just an athlete. He's just a competitor. He's really in there for that mindset. Like today, we did a mindset Monday, and it's just little. What he talks about, what he preaches is his three rules are: be completely responsible for where you are at in your life, eliminate all excuses and complaining, and number three is be thankful for everything you have. And that's not like a wrestling mindset. That's just a life mindset. So he's really in there preaching to these kids, trying to rearrange their hardwire, their hardwire in there, and really try to callous it up and get it tough. So it's a beautiful asset.
Didn't rebuild, you reloaded.
I think so, man. I'm excited. Sometimes change is good, and actually 3 days in the beginning, my brother was home, so it felt like he didn't even left. He was in the room running parts of practice, so it was fire from Monday to Wednesday in the room. It was great.
How's his tan?
I actually said that to him. I thought he would have a better tan. He's like, I work inside a lot.
Okay.
He was probably
All right.
freezing, ready to get back out there.
Yeah, it's when you come from warm weather to Jersey in the wintertime or start of the wintertime, it's a bit of a shock to the system, I can tell you that much.
I know you guys experience it.
No doubt.
Yeah. He said there's great Mexican food out there.
Oh, I'll bet.
Yeah, he said it's authentic. He said it's great.
There's uh McDowell Regional Park. You have to ask him about that if he ever heads
Cool.
out there to go get some outdoor time. That'll be a good place to go. It's in Scottsdale.
Scottsdale, it's right out there. But cool. I'll mention it to him.
Yeah. So talking about dialing back, going back a little bit, talk about doing the simple things, the basics really well, and then branching out from there. Curious, has there been any simple basic things that started back when Tony was coaching that got passed through and then got passed to Dan and then got passed through and are still a part of the program?
I would say I'm not that I know of. I
Okay.
can't think off the top of my head.
Just winning.
Winning, I would say sympathy, right? Sympathy.
Yeah,
No, I don't think we have, because you know why? It's hard because the sport just continues to
sure.
evolve.
Yeah.
It's so every year it's like, wow, we have to switch up on this is they already are looking for this when we're wrestling them. So it's an evolving sport, and it's really cool to be a part of because things that I was hitting in high school are outdated. So it keeps me fresh and it keeps me on my toes, and I have to continue to fine tune and get the solid technique that's out there.
Yeah. Yeah, you watch some of like the old New Jersey states from like the 70s and 80s on YouTube, or even like, you watch some Dan Gable matches and you're like, ooh, I don't think it would go well for these guys in 2024.
The different world out there
Yeah.
now. It's crazy. It
Like
really is.
no chain wrestling whatsoever.
Choppy, yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what you said.
Mike, bringing up working with your brother, him being out in Arizona. Rich and I work together. We've been doing this podcast for 5 years. We've had some epic arguments and even some fisticuffs at certain points when we were alone together. You and Dave ever have issues like that, or any arguments in front of the kids, or any wait till they leave, we'll take care of this, anything like that? Any funny stories?
Oh yeah. So I came in and the music was off and it was intense drill. I was doing lineups and I didn't know he told everybody you had to be silent. You can only hear breathing, no music, no. And I started grabbing someone and saying, "Hey, you're gonna bump up. I need you to get a major, just a major, or not get major, whatever the case was." I don't remember the actual conversation. And he said, "Shut up, like zip it." And I'm like, "Talking to me? I'm the head coach, And I did a double take. I'm like, "Are you talking to me?" And he goes, "Yeah, shut up. It's we're quiet right now." And I was like, I just kind of had to get out of it. I was like, I can't believe you just said that to me. Shut up. But that's Dave, and we had a good conversation after that practice in the office.
All right.
But yes, Jim, more arguments, but always comes out positive. right? Always disagree, and then we always wind up getting closer at the end. But definitely a lot of disagreement and in a lot of things throughout our 7 years coaching together. But hey, we ended strong, and I wish he was still coaching with me. We miss Dave for sure.
That is awesome. I can see the relationship that you guys have from afar. And I think that's awesome that you guys have something tight like that. And also, I must say, listening you talk about your grandfather, listening you talk about your dad, and the fact that your dad is helping you this year, I'm a little envious. I think that is awesome that you have those relationships, you have that strong foundation for yourself and those people that are in your corner for you. I think that is awesome.
For sure, man. I'm blessed. I am to have these solid group of men around me. Yeah, blessed.
Being in year 9 and you said that you come in and you're like, wow, some of the stuff that we were using when I was in high school might not work. What was the biggest learning curve for you coming into Brick Memorial? You thinking, hey, I wrestled in college, did well in high school, I know it all. Do you ever like kind of have to give Coach O'Connor a call and be like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing here?
Um, so I had a great staff. I've always had great people around me. So of course there was days where I was like, oh man, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing here. But I always had people very close in the room, like a Ryan Wilson.
Shout out to Ryan Wilson.
Yeah, Ryan Wilson's. I mean, he is such a wrestling mind and technique, and I mean, when he showed technique, it was very fun to watch. He pointed out such great detail. He was a technician, Ryan. So I even if I felt that, or I had my brother, and you know who I spoke to a lot during wrestling season was Vinny Santinella when I had his kids. I was on the phone for hours with Vinny a week. I mean, it was really and Ocone. So yes, Jim, yes, I talked to a lot of people. A lot of people helped me, and I use that help. I want the help because I don't know everything, and I maybe at 24, 25, I did, and it wasn't as easy to give me that input. But now it's like open arms. Please give me any input that you can have that I can use because this sport is constantly evolving, and it's hard to keep up on the newest things. But that's also why the kids go to club. So it's like I really like to hone in on the foundations and then start you you take it the way you want to go. Let's flow wrestle. We do a lot of play wrestling towards the middle. We started today and it was ugly. But that's always a tough process for them to get used to play wrestling. But also another thing is like how we keep up is I've had kids that are nationally ranked for like 6, 7 years straight now in my room. So I use them. Like today, Harvey showed 3 things. I was showing something, and Harvey's like, "Hey, coach, can we add this?" And they kind of keep me up to date on the freshest technique and the newest thing that's out there too, because they're always wrestling. Like, so I use every asset around me. To your point, Jim, and I can't stop learning.
So you just triggered a thought that a question that I had for you back in 2021 when you had 3 state champs coming off that COVID year, and you mentioned Vinny and him having a club. How much did him having a club during that time and COVID help with you having those three state champs?
Yes, so those kids live at that club, right? So I mean, Evan Anthony and Vincent have like a cot in the back, and I mean, they live there. Those kids, so that it was, they never missed a beat. Where everybody else was trying to just find a place to work out, they were sleeping at Vincent Anthony's, waking up and going to roll for an hour. I mean, they didn't miss a beat. And the other thing I will say is that season was set up like a fight camp. It was 6 weeks. There was no team states. It rolled right into individuals. We had like 5 dual meets. So it was. I had 4. I had hammers in the room. So it was Evan, Anthony, Vincent, and Nick Torrey in the back training to be state champs. Right, that group of 4 was just in the back getting after it. And then I would have my brother and David Zuba, and even Jimmy Lawson would pop in the room, go with Zuba. It was like, and we put it just like that. We are training. This is a fight camp, guys. We are in training for that super region and that state tournament. So it was geared up for us to have that success that year. It was.
Sorry, Sorry, I shortchanged you one state champ for.
I was just doing the math in my head. I don't even know. I was like trying to add up before. But yeah, we did have 4 that year because it was 3 in a row. And then Zuba won it the next day. We had to travel back up to Phillipsburg. Yeah, that was
Well,
cool.
that's one heck of a turn and burn right there. Brick
Well,
Memorial to Phillipsburg twice in 2 days.
yeah. And, it was like the top public school. They don't like that, us going up there and performing like that. Anyway. So, yeah, that was a long 2 days, man. Whew, long 2 days because you had to re wrestle the whole bracket the next day, so you won. It's not like Zuba was advanced with them. We
Right.
wrestled through the tournament and then the next day started all back over. So it was a fun 2 days.
It was a wild time, that's for sure.
Ooh, and the cool part was, Rich, it was 3 in a row, so it was Evan and Vincent right in a row. You just sat there and won 3 state titles. It was cool.
Talk about a murderer's row.
Gnarly. Gnarly.
Go ahead, Jim.
You mentioned that fight camp. I know I've seen you in the corner of some UFC fights before. What is that like? What is the difference between that and, maybe coaching a state finals, a complete two different beasts?
Yes, 2 different animals. And when I was cornering George in the UFC, that was my first like ever up close event of fighting. I never fought, so watching some of those elbows and those kicks are gnarly, really up close when you're right there. And it was an unbelievable experience. You're in the back, you're warming George up. The TV, the cameras are coming in. He's shadow boxing, and you're watching a crew of fighters in this fight team go out, and then the other one goes out. One comes back. Well, they both come back battered. One's crying and one's celebrating. It's just the most cutthroat sport there is. It really is. It just adds a whole new element because they're bleeding and they're mangled. And I loved it. I loved cornering them. I loved being in that mix. It was a really cool experience for me. And shout out to George Sullivan. He's one of the best people I know. Such a good dude.
Shout out to George.
He's man.
How'd you
Talk,
how'd you get
yeah.
connected with George?
Through Ocon.
Okay.
Everything kind of trickles down through Dan for me. But yeah, he was training him and Kurt. I started going to Kurt's. I knew George from rolling and training over there, and then Dan then like he just started asking me to come roll with him and wrestle, and then I just started. Dan kind of just passed him almost over, like, hey, just go with Mike. And I had the kids in the room. He was coming in my room to wrestle with like Harvey and Zuba. He's wrestled with all those guys, so he kind of just passed the torch off, and it was a great experience. So, and I still am at George's. I say now that the season's here, I'm not as active, but I train his jujitsu guys and his fighters with wrestling and takedowns and things. It's been a really cool relationship.
Well, talk about the season being here. What should we expect from the Stangs? Who should we be looking for? What are some key matchups, duels that you got on the schedule? Any big tournaments?
So we're rolling now. First official practice. We open up with Southern on the 19th. That's always a barn burner. But we then after that go to the Beast of the East. We'll have about 4 guys wrestling in the Beast, and then the split squad will send the rest of the guys to the TCNJ Pride tournament. We're a balanced team. We're pretty. I think I keep telling the guys we're sneaky good. We have some guys that are a little under the radar. Obviously, we have some guys that are on the scene, like Sonny DiMatteo was round to 12. He's coming back at 13. Maybe get down to 6. Mikey Napolitano has been in the States down in that lower weight class. Gavin Martin's been in the States. Kason Young is a fighter. He's done a couple of like MMA fights, and he got to regions last year. Is one of the best competitors I've ever coached. Just can compete out there. He's so free, and it's very fun to watch him compete. We got a kid that transferred over from Donovan that's been to regions. He'll fit in nice in our lineup. Couple seasoned kids that have just been in our lineup. Not much accolades there, but they are going to pop on the scene in that middle area. And then up top, we're loaded. We got Trey Talmadge, who's been to States twice. We got Harvey Ludington, who's #1 in the country, and Ben Zuba at heavyweight, he was round to 12 last year. He'll be ranked anywhere. He'll be top 8. So we got a solid balanced lineup. It's about developing those kids in the middle, and we're going to be a team down the stretch right in that group. We can move down from group 4 to group 3. We're going to be right in the thick of things in the group 3 finals, I think.
Is that the first time in school history that you guys have been Group 3?
No, so we actually have been everywhere from when Tony was wrestling, when Tony was coaching, we were winning. We were in group 3. We were winning a
Okay.
lot of South Jersey group 3 sectionals
Okay.
back then. Yeah, now we're Central group 3.
Okay.
We're the
I guess
biggest. I want to say we're the biggest group school in the Central. You know, we were one of the smallest in group 4. So
okay.
the other teams to beat, we actually have a quad with Cranford. They're another team that'll probably spit out of a section in group 3. And then the other team in the group is Delsey. They got 8 returning state qualifiers. They're a solid team. So that's probably the team to beat. But we're excited for it. To get, we got to stay healthy. It's a long road. You guys know that. But
Yeah, no doubt. Got to be healthy in March, that's for sure.
that's right, man. Those are the only weekends that matter in the sport.
That's where the sparring and the flow and the fun flow wrestling comes in, as opposed to just beating snot at each other day in, day out.
Exactly. And I think that's a part of where the sport's evolved too.
Mm.
That you got to say your body is the only thing you got. So you got to, we preach a lot of recovery too, and that's just as important as the training aspect of it.
Yeah. And I think too, with the more attention to nutrition and not necessarily cutting weight, but like, let's just get you to your natural weight by eating the right balanced macros, it's probably going to cut down on some injuries as well too.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's something we try to educate these kids on in tidbits, and it's so important. And you realize it now as you get older. I mean, I remember being those kids. After weigh-ins, you could eat a sub, and I can't barely even sub now and go for, I'm burping up all day. So I'm just saying, it's now you really watch what you eat more than ever. You feel it, but they would feel so much better if they put the right things in their body. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. And I think it's catching on.
Hmm.
Like, I think there's a movement in society that being healthy is cool again. Right? I don't know if that's maybe just my Instagram feed, but it seems like it's catching on that, looking at the labels, seeing what's in their foods is becoming a more prevalent thing in society. So that's a positive.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Rich and I always say wrestling kind of set us up for that. There's 2 ways wrestlers go, right? They either go the way that we go and become obsessed, you read all the labels and you still feel like you're trying to get ready for wrestling season. And then there's the guys who are still eating the subs after weigh-ins. They just don't have weigh-ins anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think they would make weight.
No, never. And I don't think they want it. But I got a funny story for you. I was just traveling for work and I was in Costa Rica and I had to get on a really, really small plane. And they were like weighing all my bags. And the lady was like, "You get on the scale." And I started like taking my pants off. And I was like, "Oh shit." And I like just hopped on the scale. And she just like looked at me and I was like, "It's just the trigger. It's just like get on the scale. Why would I get on the scale with my clothes on?"
Think light.
Yeah.
Whoa, why are your pants at your ankle? Whoa.
Mike, you mentioned bringing 4 or 5 guys to the Beast of the East, and some of the other guys are going to the TCJ tournament. Is there any tough conversations that you have to have? Any kids that, hey, coach, I want to go to this, and you have to sit them down and be like, I don't think this is the year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I actually, and it's tough when they're coming in as freshmen, right? Because it's hard because I basically made rules. You have to be nationally ranked coming in as a freshman to be, kind of be considered to go. Because sometimes the Beast only gives you a handful of spots. They don't just say, "All right, Brick Moore, you can bring 14 kids." Like you get kind of selected. Like, you get a half a team. So we've only brought, I think, ever the most was 6. So I've made it, if you went to states, you're able to go to the Beast. So it kind of takes that tough conversation out. Coming back that if you went to states and you were competing down there, that I will give you the opportunity to go to the Beast, but you could still go to the Pride tournament. I think sometimes that's better. Like Trey Talmadge coming off football, I asked him, and he already said, no, I want to go to the Pride Tour. You know, because it might not be the best thing for you to start your season out. Even if you're a guy that's going to go to states and possibly place and be high on the podium, maybe you don't want to start out that gauntlet right out the gate. You know, you want to go win a Pride tournament and get some wins under your belt and get some, start rolling through a season. Whereas if you're Harvey, you go win the piece, and that's how you start your season.
So you mentioned Harvey a couple times. Can we get an inside tip? Any idea where he's going? Is he still going to other schools, or is that we'll see when he wins the state title?
I'll throw this out there. He was wearing Tar Heel blue today, but in school. But maybe he just likes the color. Fit looked pretty good. But yeah. So he went to NC State, he went to UNC, and then he went to Oklahoma. He's got Iowa on the weekend, and I think one more visit after that. I think it might be Michigan. So some big time schools there.
Yeah, yeah, and that gives me a perfect segue because you mentioned UNC, and we always talk about Coach Cole, about that CEO as a wrestling coach, and you have mentioned you kind of had to reload the coaching staff this year. What does your CEO position look like at Brick Memorial? How do you delegate those jobs, or with the whole new coaching staff, are you doing everything and just saying, hey, you do this, you do this? How do you delegate that stuff?
So right now, I was actually just talking to my fiance about that. Like I do feel like I'm doing a lot right now, and that's because of the new positions. Right? It's not everybody's in the building, so I can't just go down to the classroom like I used to go to Wilson. Hey, you want to run this today? Or hey, we should do this by the end of the week. So there was more time to have that conversation where a lot of my coaches are cops. They're coming from the night shift. They're sleeping and they're showing up and rolling. And then, so it is a lot's falling on me, but my dad and Justin Zuba being in the building, it's easier to delegate things to them. So my dad's running tournament. My dad's the tournament guy. He's the guy behind the computer taking in the pre-seeds. He's run tournaments on track for me in the past. He's going to be helping a lot with the Mustang Classic because those are big things that you have to run. I mean, we're running a 16 team tournament, and then the zoo is like a 20 team tournament, and those are back to back. So those are very stressful things for our program, and it takes a lot of effort those couple of days. So to have someone help me with the the computer side of things that I don't really love to do. So that's a great asset in him. Zuba's really in the room doing the upper weights, and it's kind of like me, Donnie, and Huber just walking around. Even if it's Donnie running the practice or running a segment that day, it kind of happens on the fly, Jim. Right? I have a practice plan, but you've been in the room. Those are the best practices. When you see something, hey, let's take this and let's roll with it. That's kind of really how my practice kind of flows. I have bullets of things I want to cover, and if I see, a lot of these kids are doing this wrong, so we'll go off on a tangent, or Donnie will say, hey, coach, can we show this? I think they're making this mistake. So I delegate. Delegation will come more as I start to see where people fall in their roles. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I've been doing this for a while, so I do have it down to a science to an extent. I have a lot of past stuff already done, as far as the paperwork. And but yeah, I kind of am taking a lot on right now, and that's because of the change of the staff. But I have such a great staff that they want to help, right? Like I had Zuba, I was taking attendance. He's like, a head coach shouldn't be taking attendance. He took the computer from me. So I have such a great staff, and they're all. I don't want them to hear this and think that they're not doing it. I'm just taking it on right now. I haven't delegated it out because I'm just trying to feel everybody out and see what their best role would be. It's the first time working with them. It's 4 days in the room together so far. So, but what a great staff we put together, man.
Mike, what advice do you have for young coaches stepping into a new role, and or maybe even someone like yourself stepping into a new role of a established program that has high expectations?
Uh, the, the first thing I believe to make a program is you have to have parent buy-in. You have to, even though a lot of coaches don't, you know, after a match, they want to get right in the locker room, get out of there, get out of sight and not speak. You have to create that family culture. And it's unfortunate you have to have a lot of conversations. It's about creating relationships, I believe. And coaching is just creating relationships. And when you create that rapport, people will do things for you. When those kids know you'll go the extra mile for them, they're going to do it for you too. So, and the kids read through that crap, right? You can't fake it if they can feel it. So, and the parents do too. So, I just think being bought into the program, making it very important to you. And it's got to be something that you work towards every day. Ocone says that to me, even in the off season. Like it has to be something you're thinking about. Even putting out a tweet, it just makes people connect to the program. Like, wow, this guy's, it's in the middle of summer. He's still thinking about this. Wow, he's putting out the workout. He's putting out the accolades of kids that are wrestling in college, like just creating that family culture and keeping people involved. And I really think it stems from the parents, because who's the one driving them? Who's the one paying for things? Who's the one, when that parent wants their kid to be with you in that room, that's when you know you really can take it. Because when you have parent pushback or they're not getting rides, it's very hard to build things. You need consistency to build anything. So where does the consistency come from? The parents. And I believe that is the most important thing in a program, because that's what drives the whole family. So that's where the family that's sitting in the stands for 8 hours on the Saturday from the morning, they don't even see light. Not a lot of families are willing to do that. All that takes a lot. So that's the first thing I would say to a young coach is have a parents meeting. Don't shy away from that. Go and create that rapport with the parents, get them involved, even if it's not something you really want to do. Have those conversations after matches. Have the tough conversations with the parents, with the kids that aren't starting. It actually goes a long way.
Brooke Morris had a lot of brothers come through too.
And that's what makes it easy. You,
Yeah.
you already know the parents. You already know the uncles. They're all sitting in the stands. It's like, all right, we got another one. You're not kidding with that. A lot of families, a lot of brothers on the wall. It's amazing.
We appreciate those tweets. We appreciate those posts because it's allowed us to follow the program from afar, and it allows us to kind of know what's going on in the short conference. So we appreciate that. And some of that sage wisdom about having the relationships with the parents, I got to give you dabs because I think that's probably where I failed as a young coach, where I'd be like, yeah, I like that guy. I like that guy. I'm not sure about that, dad. So how do you kind of get through to some of those tough parents? We know there's tough parents in wrestling that kind of might be overbearing or kind of, this is the practice, I'm the coach. How do you kind of get through to those parents?
Um, Wrestling is cool. Is a cool sport because I feel the kid's success takes care of itself. So you can always point out things with those parents that, hey, maybe if he changes this attitude in this practice, and you could kind of throw it, they serve it to you. Why isn't Johnny doing this? Or why isn't, and you could serve it back to them. Like, hey, maybe if he fixes this, something will change. Or you could point out, hey, maybe if he stops being late to practice, or maybe if when I'm talking, he's not tying his shoes. So it's not being a jerk. It's just saying, hey, there is things your kid needs to work on too, whether he's winning on the mat or not. It's not, but it's about letting them know you're watching, like letting them know I'm taking it all in and I'm holding him accountable across the board. So when you have the ability to spit out things like that, my brother was very good at that. Well, he doesn't do this and he's not on time for this. And it's almost like as a parent's like, whoa, oh, all right. I'll go back and talk to my kid. Whereas they were talking to us. So I think being a very aware coach, being engaged, and because now it's not hard to pull those things out, right? It's not like I'm backtracking. Oh, he mispracticed. No, I know he wasn't there because I was looking for him and I wanted to work on a position with him and he wasn't there or whatever it is. So I think in order to have those conversations and be successful in them, you have to be actively engaged in the kids, and that's why they'll go the extra mile for you, because you are too, and you're actually thinking about them after practice and thinking about how you can make them better. So those tough conversations aren't tough if you're really engaged, right? Because it comes from a place of caring. I want your kid to be out there. So I think that you have to be bought in. You have to be bought in.
On the other end of that spectrum, we know, some kids just don't have the best home life. Maybe they don't have parents. Maybe they're living with an aunt or uncle, and they're doing everything. They're checking the boxes off, but there's that kind of glaring hole when they go home at 6:30. There's nothing really there. How do you kind of combat that?
Of course. I always just say, this is your family, right? We are here for you, but also you're getting the right messages here. We just talked about what my dad was preaching. Even if it's not at home, listen to what we're saying. And we're trying to help you in life. So you have a core here, you have a family here. Even if your home life's not the best, for these 2.5 hours, take in what we're doing, be at peace, and be present here, because it might be the best 2 hours of your day. And that's sad, but that is some kids' circumstances. So at least look at the light that you have in your day, and this is about a positive 2.5 hours for you.
Yeah. That was one of the things I said to the kids when I took over. I said, my number one goal here is to make you a better human.
That's it, man.
If we get better at wrestling and we win some matches, maybe go to states, then that's gravy and icing on the cake. But my one and only purpose for being here is to make you a better human being.
That's right.
Sometimes
This
you're
is
not going
just
to like that, but
how we're going to do that. You might not enjoy, but you will at the end become
yeah,
better.
we'll get there.
And it's just a vehicle for these kids. And some kids are going to be state champs, and some kids are going to be just program kids. But those program kids are usually the ones that take the most from it. I actually was just watching an interview with I think it was Kerry Colat. I think it was Kerry Colat. He was saying that this NIL with making, or the 30-man roster, he was saying those are the kids that walk on our teams are the ones that take the most from this, because they're so grateful to have the opportunity. They may never start, but they become millionaires, and they're the biggest donors.
Mm-hmm.
So he was saying basically this is causing an issue. Those guys that donate are getting cut. So I thought that was a pretty interesting take on that 30-man roster.
Yeah, it's interesting times with everything that's going on between the NIL, the transfer portals are just a field day, and then now with the rosters and how that, like you said, how that impacts. We've talked to quite a few non-Division One schools, and I think Wartburg had like 90 kids on their cross country team. And it's like, again, there's only 7 kids that are varsity cross country runners, or there's only 14 kids that are varsity wrestlers, but you're making an impact on, it's 60 kids on the team. A lot of those other kids are going to use those lessons to get through college, or to build a business, or to be an entrepreneur, or to stock trade, whatever it may be. And again, if they don't have that, then we're losing out. We're losing good people.
100%. And that's why I actually was upset with myself. I even considered cuts and said the word cuts, because if they are in there to work, you can't take this away from young men and women. Can't. It teaches you too much.
Yeah. It's tough though. I mean, I've been there where it's like, man, it would be a lot nicer in this room if we had like 15 less bodies in it. But again, you know, those kids are going to lose out. And eventually, that one kid who is a knucklehead and is always doing something in the hallway he's not supposed to be doing when he's a freshman or in 8th grade, eventually he might turn into a region champion or state champion his junior and senior years. So you never know.
You never know, man. You never know. So why take the opportunity from them? Now, if there was lack of effort, that would have been a reason to take it, but there isn't. So
Yeah.
gotta give them that. Gotta give them what they can get out of the sport, especially in today's society.
Yeah.
It's important.
Rich, do you have anything else for Mike, or you want to get in the final four?
I got one last one.
Okay.
100 wins, 6 state champions, multiple region champions, even more district champions. You've been with the program for 9 years. Do you have a highlight?
Highlight. I would have to say our first sectional championship at home over Jackson. Just getting that first one, solidifying my staff, solidifying what I'm doing, that it was the right thing, because that was a tight match. We had to wrestle well to win. It wasn't just like a sectional where you blew somebody out. It was we could have lost that match. So we were prepared. Another really good one was the 31-30 match against Middletown South for a sectional. So those two are the highlights. And it's not just because it's a championship. My team was so prepared for those matches. And and we competed our best in those big spots. So um, those were some special moments for me as a coach.
Nice. Sectional titles, and you got to go up against people in your own conference in your own county.
Crazy, right? Within our own division. How about our division this year? It's us, Southern, CBA, St. John Vianney, and Rumson.
Jeez.
We're the bottom
How did
feeder.
that happen?
I know they realigned everything and they basically took the top 5 teams, and we just happened to be fifth.
What is that? Is that A South? What is that called?
The A
Murder
division.
for
Yeah, Big Ten.
Yeah. A division. Jeez.
Yeah. So that's a gauntlet for us.
Are all those teams ranked in the state, or is it a little
Uh,
different now because it's all
no,
Catholic?
so it's I think St. John Vianney was fourth preseason, Southern was fifth, CBA was sixth, and Rumson was ninth. So and I haven't seen anywhere where we would probably be anywhere from 15 to 20, I would think, somewhere in there.
So mentioning that, and we know, back in the day with, Southern, Brook Memorial, some of the Toms River schools, Jackson, they might not win A South, but then they'd be winning a Group 4 title,
Yeah.
because you wrestle those teams 2 to 3 times. How do you kind of prepare your team with, hey, this dual season it might be rough, but by the time the states come, we're going to be going on all cylinders and we're going to have an opportunity. How do you kind of stay positive when you have that Big Ten schedule, for lack of a better term?
Yeah. We're already talking about it. And when that realignment came out, I put the word good out. Like, good. What are we gonna do? We're gonna sit here. I just told you my dad's rules. Get rid of excuses and complain. What are we gonna do? Complain? So something good is gonna come from it. That's my message. That's from Jocko, right? We preach that a lot in the room. A bad situation occurs, something good's gonna come from it. And maybe that's this schedule and this grind of a season we're going through. Maybe that's the thing that gets us over a hump and we win a Group 3 title. Who knows? But I think if you don't approach it that way, it's only going to hurt you. So we're excited about it. We really are, because we're the clear underdog, in all 4 of those matches of the conference. So hey, let's go out fighting.
Well, Mike, you got me excited. I know Rich
Yeah.
is excited. We were been fans of Brick Memorial, but now, like we always say, having a coach on the podcast talking about the program gives us something more to pay attention to. So I am super stoked for you and the Mustangs this season.
Thank you, guys. We're super pumped. We got two more fans following along, man. It's awesome.
Yeah, Tony was always nice to me when, I had to wrestle Danny a couple times and he was always nice to me. I was a gut wrench guy, so John was super helpful. He was one of the last people that talked to me in Atlantic City after I lost my match my senior year. He put his arm around me and he's like rubbing my ears. He's like, "You got out alive. You don't have any. Your ears are intact. You did good, kid."
I can hear Coach DeMarco saying that. It's
So
great.
we, like Jimmy said, we've been fans for a long time. We used to Brook Memorial matches. If we didn't have matches at the Borough, we were always going to watch Brook Memorial, watch some high level wrestling. So
It's good stuff, man.
yeah,
It's awesome.
All right, Mike, final 4, sir. You ready?
Yep.
All right. First one I got for you. Are you a coffee drinker?
Yes.
How do you brew your coffee and how do you take it?
Well, espresso black.
let's
Go.
go. You got a machine at the house?
Yeah, we use an espresso machine.
Nice,
It's
nice. One and done for the day, or do you go back for more? Two,
double. I rip a
double.
double usually.
All
Yeah.
right, nice. Mike, do you have any daily practices or rituals that you do on a regular basis to show up as the strongest version of Mike Kiley?
I work out. I try to get a workout in, whether it's mental or physical, every day. So that's really it. Besides that, no, I don't. I should
Okay.
probably get more of a routine going though.
What do you do for your banging weights? What's your go-to?
Yeah, I usually hit a lift. I got the Iron Stable right up the street, so I have the high school gym. I live right on the road. So or I'm over, doing privates with guys. That keeps me busy. It keeps me on the mat. And I'm just over at Sullivan's pretty actively when I'm not in the wrestling room. And
Okay.
today I try to roll, or I'm running practice and doing the workouts with the kids and hitting calisthenics with them. And whenever we're doing a lift, I'm active. So whenever we're doing something, I try to train with them.
Setting a
And
good
now you got
example.
to train to try to keep up with these kids. So
Keeps you young, that's for sure.
it, man.
Mike, what are you listening to right now? Music, podcasts, audiobooks? Are you reading anything?
I typically am more music. I like country music. That's really what I listen to.
You
What's your
got a
go-to
go-to?
country?
What was that?
What's your go-to country?
I like you guys are probably. I like Jamie Johnson. I don't know even know if you guys will know him.
I
I
don't.
don't.
Yeah, check out Jamie Johnson.
Okay.
He's a little bit off the riff, but he's awesome.
Is that newer stuff?
No, old.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I'll check that
Rolling
out.
Down the Roses. That's a good one. Jennings Jones. Yeah, no, he. I started listening to him with my brother a lot in college. We used to drive back and forth to TCMJ and just listen. And I kind of, especially during wrestling season, I listen to more Jamie Johnson than anything. Kind of brings me
Okay.
back.
Yeah, nostalgia.
Yeah, exactly.
Who's controlling the auxiliary cord in the wrestling room?
This guy
You?
can't deal
Okay.
with it. Can't deal with the other music. They'll put it on and then I'll just take over.
Yeah, I hear you. I always make playlists for the kids, and then eventually they're like, "Are we ever gonna listen to our music?" And I'm like, "No, probably not."
Doubtful.
So every once in a while, I'll throw a couple songs on just to appease them a little bit, and then I'll slide back my playlist.
I'm quiet. I make them earn music a lot too. Maybe toward the end, hey, you guys had a hard practice. I'll throw some on at the end of conditioning, clear your mind.
I told them today. I said it's Christmas time, so from now until Christmas, don't expect to hear anything but classic Christmas carols.
That's more torture.
I'm sure I'll get sick of it before they do, but
That's great. I remember
Mike,
one time Dave put on like opera to like you guys want music that bad? He put on like opera just to now this is what we're listening to. It was like terrible. Just pissed everybody off.
keeps your heart rate lower.
He was doing it just to just to get on him.
They need that.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Mike, last one we got for you. Could be food, maybe a Irish whiskey, maybe a cigar. Do you have a guilty pleasure?
Steak. Dutch Hill.
Steak.
I'll give them a shout out. Dutch Hill Farm over in Spring Lake, man.
Yep.
Get your meat there. It's unreal.
Okay. Jim, we met them. That's when we were home the
Yep.
last time. They were at
Yep.
the
Farmers market.
where was that?
Windward Beach, right?
Windward Beach. Yeah, I was gonna say Winding River, but it was at Windward Beach. We met the lady and
So good, man. There's such good people in there too. Husband and wife shop.
mhm.
It's awesome.
Do you have a favorite cut? Doesn't matter.
We usually smack a strip, but we like ribeye, strips, porters. But we're usually more strip.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right. You ever been to the butcher block? Is
I have. We've been a couple times.
that a
I
good
feel like
spot?
I feel like I don't need to go back ever since buying steaks from Dutch Hill. I'm telling you, it's
Okay.
that good, man. We reverse sear it. It's unreal.
Yes, I'm a
Yeah.
big fan. I do the reverse sear sometimes, but lately I'll do a triple sear. Have you ever seen
No,
those?
what's that?
So you sear it on both sides,
Okay.
depending on the thickness, anywhere from like a minute to 90 seconds.
Yeah.
Take it off the heat, let it sit for 6 minutes,
Okay.
put it back on, do another sear on both sides for a minute, 90 seconds, take it off for another 7 minutes, and then
Okay.
put it on for that third sear for 60 seconds to 90 seconds. And
All right, we're trying it.
I saw it so it came through my Instagram feed once, and it's like, you ever wonder why your steaks at home don't come out like they do at the restaurant? It's like, because they do them like this at the restaurant. So that's how I've been doing them since then on the cast iron.
And they're
Yeah, they're money.
all right. Sweet. I'm gonna have to take you up on the triple sear.
Yeah, give it a shot. See what
Good
you think.
stuff.
Mike, you are the man, sir. Thank you so much for the insight. Thank you so much for the sage wisdom tonight. It was
Yeah.
a epic conversation.
Guys, I enjoyed this so much. Thank you for having me on, man. That was awesome.
Absolutely, Mike. It's an honor and a pleasure, and we are excited for the wrestling season to get underway in New Jersey, and we'll be rooting for the Mustangs this year.
Thank you, guys. We're looking forward to it.
Sweet. Well, good luck and enjoy your Christmas as well too.
You guys too. Thank you.
All right, y'all. We appreciate you joining us tonight with Coach Kiley. Make sure you go follow the Mustangs if you are in New Jersey. Put some of their home matches on the schedule, maybe even away matches. Those are some pretty tough conference matches. You're going to want to go check out some premier wrestling, not only in the Shore Conference, but in the state of New Jersey. So we look forward to that, and we appreciate you tuning in tonight. We will be back tomorrow, same bat time, same bat channel. So we'll see you all then. Take care, y'all.